Alright, so this is my little session recap video for session B2, which was the Escuchame remix. First thing I did was treat all of the vocals. So across them, I mean, all of these are the vocals you can see, along with the initial low-pass filters that I applied lots of OTT, which is multi-band compression, just to really squidge them down and bring out those highs, which were somewhat inconsistent in the vocal stems that I received after, using Logic Stem Splitter. And another way of getting over that kind of inconsistent high-frequency content is using a plate reverb, so basically it just masks it, because it's a lot harder to tell that the highs are really dodgy when it's all sustained, do you know what I mean, because it carries over. So after I did that, I went down to the percussion and EQ'd a lot of the perks. So what about this kind of stuff? Now the EQ applied looks kind of weird, and I mean, yeah, that's not right at all, but I mean, just in the context of the mix, this is what I needed. Like, they were really woody around the lower kind of, just in the mid-range, so I needed to figure that out and bring up the kind of upper lows, very low mids, just to get the thumpiness out of it that I wanted, because it is a real rhythmic element and I don't want it to take too much space up in the mix in kind of the mid-range. Then after that I added went over to the kick, because I feel like there was a lot, when I started to mix on here, I said it was really booming. There's a lot of problems between the kick and the bass, and what I did here was I increased the using Cashmere's Essential Kick Shaper, increased the transient, increased some tapes, that's like saturations and pressure. So it's just basically like sort of a kick compressor. Then I wanted to mess with the high end, because without that, it sounds super duper clicky, and I wanted to kind of get rid of that or soften that click a bit. So I was able to do that. And then I also duplicate the kick then with like a low pass kick for the rap section. Yeah, that's not the rap section, it was just repeated. Then after that, I added some stereo width to the tops. I'm trying to think what that means, because it's done so much in this session. Also, if you notice different speakers, that's because I've had to carry it on today, because I didn't have enough time to finish it yesterday in college. But I think that's, yeah, it's referring to the shakers here. So as you can see, on here I've got some wider that I've added. So it's basically just stereo width. But then in this section, I've got some sample delay. So it's like creating a second copy of the audio, then putting it out of phase and hard panning left and right to give it the illusion of stereo width. Then I tamed 3 to 4K hertz across the drums using EQ. Let's see if I can go to the drums. Where are we? Drums, I think that's kind of not necessarily that. Is it the hat? I think, yeah, somewhat in the hat. Just bring it down there, just the upper, mids, lower highs kind of area. And I mean, especially saw it in the kick being tamed. I think I did it in the snare as well. Yeah, again, I just brought down this kind of between 2 and 4K, because it felt very clicky and quite harsh. Because I mean, that was probably kind of what I was hearing a lot of out this, or not a lot of out of my computer speakers. So I brought it up to compensate, but it just didn't sound good out of a proper monitor system. I added a secondary bass. So by that, what I mean is it's sort of like here. It's kind of here. So if you notice, it's the exact same bass patch, except it is not sidechained, and I've used it's only sidechained on the first hit, so it automates to turn off. And it automates to turn back on as it leads back in, to give it that pulsing sense. But here's track spacer. Basically, it's just track spacer is a way of sort of side chaining it. Yeah, it's a way of side chaining specific frequencies, but I've routed it to itself, and it takes out a lot of the low frequencies which are very present in the sound. Without it, just sounds like the regular bass, but with it sounds kind of muted. Well, not muted, but it's a lot of the lows taken out. It just sounds cool. It was an accident, and I left it because it sounded cool. Then on the bass itself, I again used track spacer and routed it to the kick, because a lot of the low frequencies were kind of interfering. Even after the sidechain, the kick has quite a long tail, so I did shorten the kick's tail as well, but I applied some of this just to so the low frequencies don't clash. And I EQ'd it a little bit. Yeah, just a bit of subtle EQ, taking down the lower mids and boosting the super lows ever so slightly. Then after that, I added an intro bass because the one I had was absolutely diabolically awful. So the intro bass is a serum patch. I did not create it, but I have messed with it, and I've automated this macro knob here, which is the cutoff knob, which is linked to that filter there. So I've automated that to come out along with low cut frequency. So basically, it takes out the lows towards the end of that. I've also automated the high cut on the EQ as well. It was a double whammy type thing. Not sure why I've done that. And then I bring the reverb down, I bring the reverb up and the dry signal down, so it kind of goes, so it takes out all the low frequencies, basically shifts up the frequency spectrum and adds loads of reverb, so it fades into that next build part. Now this build part, one of the few things I have left to do on this song that I definitely, a major thing, is this build section here. It needs a bass beneath it, or at least some sort, maybe not a bass, but something. Yeah, maybe not a bass actually, because I'm starting to want to it without a bass just because I'm lazy. But yeah, where next? I removed the build bass because it sounded kind of rubbish. And I'm gonna add something else there, maybe like a strings going up, something like that. I added atmosphere, so I added these jungle sounds. I added different jungle sounds actually throughout the whole thing. So this is literally the jungle sound I use in everything. I've got that going in the back in the intro. Then in the build, I've got. Oh no, sorry, that's in the build actually, and then in the drop I've got this different one, which is delay, reverb, then sidechain on it. Then it goes back to that, my signature one in the rap section. Then again, it's my signature one here. Then it's back to the drop one. So the drop one's a bit more kind of frantic, or there's a bit busier, so it doesn't really work that well in the sparser sections instrumentally like the intro. But I mean, yeah, I added a new bass filter and reverb automation. Yes, I did do that. Did I? Oh yeah, that's the automation stuff on here. So I'm just reading back to my notes that I kept of everything I did, so I can explain. Yeah, so that's all the automation I applied to the new bass. So then the perks, I added some automation during the build, so it's literally just it's open and up filter pretty much. I turned the kick down. There's a lot of work in terms of balancing the kick and bass volumes, and it turned out, turning the kick down, so it needed to be done. I'm very happy with the balance I've got now. I think it works. Then I added the second kick drum, which I think I've talked about here. It's literally the same, it's just got the highs taken out and it's boosted slightly to compensate for that. Just to let that kind of, I don't know, just to give it a lot of variation. I wanted to really bring down the intensity and make space for the rap vocals, and I think I've done that. It just feels like a pulse beneath it all, like it's keeping that tempo, keeping that energy, but reducing the intensity, I think. I'm very happy with how that sounds, and it's worth mentioning that also on the vocals I applied a really tight room reverb, which I think works so well. And then it goes to this section here that I added, where it's literally, it goes to dry vocals for 2 bars and everything cuts out, and then it's got this crash coming in. I might make that slightly smoother in terms of that. Just the transitions between the sections I feel it could be smoother. Add the high cut in the rap part. I've done that. And then finally, in the second drop here, I added basically a sample I ripped from a vinyl record of like sounds for filmmakers. So you can't get these samples anywhere online. It's beautiful. It's a German record from the 1970s, but this is an air raid siren I ripped from that, and you can hear the vinyl crackle on it from where I ripped it. But I added some reverb, added a low cut, and then added some sidechain, and it's super quiet in the mix. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm very happy with how this session has gone. I think it's turned into something that I'm really actually proud of, because before I was like, oh, that sounds a bit rubbish. But I mean, just getting the vocals to sound right was so much of a big part. But the main things I feel like I tackled was the vocal sounds, so I'm now happy with that. And then just the balance between the kick and bass, because that was so essential in such a simple song like this. I mean, this is a really super simple song. I think I spoke about it in when analysing stuff like the Sammy Virji stuff. If it's a simple song, your elements need to be good. And I mean, it's got less than 50 tracks, which for me is nothing. This is like unheard of to have almost a full song with that few tracks. And I mean, I'm sure I could absolutely slim this down. Like, look, this track's not being used, and there's this track literally empty. You know what, I'm going to delete that now. Just like stuff like that. Yeah, it's super duper simple, but I've got this. It sounds like that's mixing and songwriting I've done there in terms of composition and stuff. And yeah, I extended the intro out a little bit just to catch the first part of that vocal phrase. I feel like little things could be added here and there, like maybe some shaker sounds in the intro, just like pan left and right, some interest like that. And I pulled Olive in and asked her, what do you think of this? I should have recorded it, but she didn't have time to give me a proper thing. But she just said, Olive's a girl in my class, by the way, but she just said that just the transitions between sections could be smoother, and I completely agree. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. Oh, and at the end actually, I automated it so low cut comes up and a delay gets mixed in. So I'm going to move that over like that, so it just catches the end. Yeah, so that's literally it. I brought up the low cut because it sounded really messy with the dissonance between the bass. But yeah, that's pretty much it.